I have a little leg play finesse move for you to add to a shoulder mount position. You do not need to have a shoulder mount for this one. It can be a shoulder mount-ish position laying on the ground or a shoulder mount up on the pole. Okay, so it can be something you work into your low flow or something you work into your tricks or a combination of both. Okay, so for this one, it works barefoot, it works in heels, it works in socks, whatever you want to do. Whether your intention is to take it up on the pole into the shoulder mounted version up high, I would highly recommend you start with it down low to sort out what's going on with all those legs and start to smooth it out. That being said, this is going to be an amazing ab workout. Okay, so if you're looking for some fun ways to work in your pole conditioning, this is fantastic. Whether you're doing it on the floor or up there, it'll get you. Okay, so for this one, we're going to work out what's going on with our legs from the floor first. And then if that's feeling okay, and if you want to take it up to a shoulder mat and you have a shoulder mat, then we take it up. Because remember, having a shoulder mat isn't going up to the pole versus hanging out to play with your legs, whole other thing, right? So we're going to start down on the floor here. And for this one, you don't have to put your shoulder all the way to the pole. It can be a few inches away or it can be touching completely. I've got my hands in the same position I would have for a regular shoulder mount. They're in a cup grip with my arms roughly bent at 90 degrees. Now, this is where the ab part comes in. It is going to help to get your hips up off the ground. You can work on this with your butt on the floor, but it does make it a little bit harder to get that rotation. Especially I find being on a hard floor, it's not the most comfortable thing. So I actually am motivated to keep my butt up because it don't feel good on that hard floor with my bony hips. Okay, so you are going to try and lift your butt off the floor as much as you can on this one. But like I said, you can work on the mechanics of it with your hips down. So we're going to raise up to our straddle. We're going to start by taking both legs to the same side. And now here's the key thing for starting. Whichever side your legs are on, which in this case, it's my right side, the right leg needs to be in back and or on top. Okay, because that's going to be the leg that's going to bend first, always. It's always going to be the back leg or the same leg that is the same side that you're on. Okay, so if I'm on my right side, that leg bends first. If I'm on my left side, my left leg bends first. Okay, so then let's look at what happens here. I've got my right side, right legs. I'm going to bend that leg first, then the other leg bends. I'm going to keep my knees touching as I shift my knees to point the other direction. And the same leg that started the bend is going to straighten first and then the other one, which means now I end up with my legs are to the left side and my left leg is on top. Okay, so I'm to the left side, which means left leg bends first, right leg. Left leg extends first, right leg. I'm on the right side. Right leg bends first. Switch sides. Right leg extends first. Extend, I'm on the left. Okay, so once you start to get the mechanics of it, start with it really slow, okay? Initially, it's going to feel very mechanical. It's going to feel very boxy. That is totally normal because you're going to start to be like right on red and left on green and I don't know where I am in life. Once it starts to get to the point where you don't have to think about so much which leg and which side and which one goes where, then it'll start to flow, okay? You can make these go fast. You can make these go slow, whatever you want to. Little nuance with this. If you're playing around with them and you're like, oh, okay, it's making sense of which leg goes where, but it just feels like it's missing something. Couple of things I want you to think about. A, how far apart you bend your legs. Okay, so this is one that I find when I go into these, if I just bend a tiny bit of one before I start to bend the other, it tends to look a little less defined and you kind of miss some of the nuances of the movements. So something that I found that makes this look a little more decadent, flowy, I don't know, just gives it more depth, is to bend the first leg all the way or as much as you can before you bend the second leg. So think about having as much distance between those two legs as you can. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, So that's one thing. The other thing is how much you tilt your hips. And that is one thing that I find on the floor is definitely harder to do, especially when I'm on a hard floor, because I can only tilt so much without digging my bones into the floor. Okay. It is easier to get that hip tilt though when you take it up high. So, and you definitely can do it on the floor, of course, but those two little things, getting that distance between the legs and getting more of a tilt. I also mentioned keep your knees touching in transition, right? Is when I go to the side, then bend, my knees touch before they extend, right? So my knees are staying touching when I'm shifting through that middle. That also will make it look smoother. So if you're seeing that gap in the middle, it's going to look a little more, I don't know, funky, right? Okay. So then that hip tilt, when I take my legs aside, I don't just take my legs, I kind of tilt ever so slightly or as much as I can, depending on, how sassy I'm feeling with it. Okay. So pay attention to the hip tilt that is going on here. Okay. Whew. Get my workout in. Is I'm really thinking about trying to, in the center, my hips are facing here. When I go to the side, I'm really trying to drop and turn my hips as much as I can just to give a little more smoothness to it, a little more depth. Once again, those are little icing on the cake things that you can play around with once the overall movements make sense for you. So play around with these on the floor. Remember, whichever side your legs are on, that's the leg that's on top. That's the leg that's going to bend first. Whichever leg bends first is going to be the first leg to straighten on the other side. Okay, it's going to start out ticka, 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 very mechanical. And over time, it'll start to get smoother. Okay, and it's just a matter of playing around with it. Make these part of your warm up, your pre-pull, you stretch and everything and you're ready to go every time, and they'll start to get smoother and smoother. As I said at the beginning, these make fantastic conditioning. Do them on both sides, okay? Because it's helping you strengthen your shoulder mount, getting those hips up, and then playing around with the flow. I do find for these, as much as I'm totally comfortable shoulder mounting on both sides, I find when I do these, when I'm in my left shoulder mount, my legs are not as smooth in that direction. And I feel like some of that has to do with my natural, which direction I feel more comfortable crunching to due to some old injuries. So, but yeah, let me know. Maybe one side feels more comfortable to you. Maybe it feels the same for you. So play around with these. Do both sides, whether it's uncomfortable or not. If you can work it into your low flow, you can work it into your tricksy things. You can do a combination of both, pants on, dance on, tricksy trivia, whichever you want to do. Have some fun with them, work them into some combos, make them your conditioning, do them just for fun, whatever floats your boat. Have fun with them. Let me know how it goes.